UFC on FX8 is in the books, which means it's time for Verbal Tap, the show that proves fighting is easier from outside the cage. With me, a man who has really earned his paycheck this week because of the guest you booked, Raf Esparza. Raf, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, and thank you. I always earn my paycheck.
Yeah, so typically if you've heard the show before, Raf and I take combative stances against the other's opinions in existence. Is that fair?
Yes.
But tonight I'm having a real catch-22 situation because I'm a pretty big fan of our guest, Rafael Lovato Jr., and you were the one that set that up, so I'm stoked.
I think we both are. As huge BJJ enthusiasts, you don't get much better than him.
You really don't. Like, genuinely. We're saying he's the most decorated American Jiu-Jitsu competitor. The guy's a beast. If you have not heard the show before, first of all, thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
Welcome to the shenanigans. Raf and I try and add a little comedy to MMA here and there. He's out in sunny Los Angeles. I'm over in D.C. You can hear us by going to our website, VerbalTapCast.com. I'm going to say it one more time because you can also find color commentary and fun articles starting up again tomorrow. I've got a few loaded, by the way, Raf, that I haven't talked to you about yet.
Oh.
VerbalTapCast.com. Come over, join us, find us on Twitter, again at VerbalTapCast, and you can like us on Facebook. And if you're downloading us on iTunes, just go ahead and leave a little star rating over there. Just go ahead and leave a little comment that says, hey, I'm listening to the show. That way we know.
Now, I'm not saying what amount of stars you need to give, 5, but if you were to give stars, why wouldn't you give 5? Because this is a fun show.
You keep going, and I'll just add it subliminally. I'll just keep saying 5.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you really just
5.
want to listen to this podcast and you're thinking, like, I like this show.
5.
And you're just like, man, these guys, they seem like cool guys.
2 + 3.
And I would hang out with them and have a beer and watch fights.
5. See how we did that? Look at us seamlessly working together. Not rehearsed, people.
No, definitely not.
Hey, Raf.
Yes.
Did you see the spinning back kick that Vitor Belfort threw at Luke's face on Saturday night?
It was hard to miss.
It was hard to miss.
If you didn't see it the first time, they definitely replayed it about 9 trillion other times out of sheer what factor.
If you had landed that kick, let's say you threw a spinning back kick, which, by the way, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like -20 away from being able to make a maneuver like that. I don't know how his legs stretch that way or how he's able to maneuver it all at the same time, but it's a feat. How many times would you have watched it if you had performed the kick?
It would be the opening image that you see when you walk into my house. It would be
it
wallpaper.
Would just be playing on its own big screen television.
It would be on a big screen. It'd be like, welcome to my home. Hello. You would also see wallpaper of that kick. You would hear me just be like, oh, have you seen the kick yet? It's impossible that I, an average day person, can do this kick, so we really have to make a big deal of it. It was just another day at the office for Vitor.
I think I'd buy commercials at local television stations. I would just not be able to stop watching it. Attendance, 7,642. Fight of the night went to Larson's versus Martins. KO of the night obviously went to Vitor Belfort.
Who else was it going to go to?
Vitor Belfort's foot? Maybe they just make it more specific.
All right, keep going.
Submission of the night, of course, goes to Jacare Souza. And first of all, should we thank him for that personal shout-out?
Yes.
It was obviously a personal shout-out to Verbal Tapcast because Raf and I's favorite choke is that arm triangle.
Yes.
It looked like he had about 7 options, so I like to think he stopped and was like, hey, what would Raf and Kevin over at Verbal Tap like to see tonight?
Not just him, but earlier in the night, there was also an arm triangle performed from inside half guard, which was impressive to watch. especially when it was from the wrong side. And it's really bad when you're around people who don't get as excited as you do when these things are happening.
Not even close.
Yeah, I was at a bar and I was just like, did you see that? It was from half guard. Anybody?
Am I the only one watching these fights?
Oh my God. Okay. Fine. I'm the only one. I'm crazy. Yep, me. Crazy. Great.
And the funny part about this, you and I were literally talking. We were texting back and forth because you were like, did you see that? As Jacare is landing some pretty significant strikes. Because we'll get to his fight more specifically in a second, but really impressive. So you're talking to me about the arm triangle just seconds before Jacare decides, yeah, let's do another one of those.
One more for those guys.
Yeah. Quick, did you watch the post-fight presser?
Yes.
How did it feel without Dana White? And I have two comments, but let me just ask you, what were your thoughts? No Dana White in the presser.
Quieter.
Wasn't it?
First of all.
Didn't it feel more relaxed also? Like not quite as angry?
Yeah. And two, this is the one that I thought of. Because whenever I don't see Dana at an event, the first thought that goes into my head is, I'm not fucking getting on a plane.
My only complaint, because first of all, let me just applaud. I think Dana should have done this a long time ago. It's not like the man doesn't get enough time in front of a microphone, but he's terrible at managing those post-fight pressers. Like, he just really sucks at it.
Yeah, he does.
This guy seemed really good at disarming reporters and talking to them, except anytime they asked him any fucking question about what the UFC was thinking, he would immediately respond to me, look, I don't make any decisions. That's all Dana. And so, like, I don't do anything. And then would proceed to just say that over and over again. So, UFC, if you're going to send someone that's not Dana White, maybe you should empower them to speculate just a little bit or talk to them about what you're thinking, because fuck, that was annoying.
I do love the idea of disarming people by being like, well, I'm not a big city lawyer, but if I were, this is how I'd handle it. But of course, I'm not in charge.
I'm not one of those fast-talking, bald Boston boys that you're used to dealing with. I'm just a man with a beard.
Mint julep, anybody?
If he had wore a seersucker, he would be my new personal hero and desktop background.
Now I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. It's I like a good seersucker, especially if you're going to be down in Brazil.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Allow me to go for a second. Wasn't it a good night for Rafael's?
Mm-hmm.
It was a great night.
It really was a shocking night for people that share your name.
That is correct. And again, somebody who's on this podcast who shares my name. I mean, I'm just saying. Rafael
I did like
Dos.
When you declared that you win because other Rafaels were winning.
Yeah, dude, it's by proxy. It's math. Don't you know transformative property?
It's math.
It's math.
Can't argue with that, people. If you're listening, you understand why working with Raf is such a treat sometimes. It's math.
And the worst part is when you were like, I think Evan Dunham won, and I go, well, they're going to hand it to Rafael. Just because how do you not, especially with the Brazil crowd? And lo and behold, they do. And everybody's really angry. And yes, Evan Dunham did a really good job. Like, I thought he did enough to make it super close, not for him not to be put ahead. But in my brain, I was just like, Rafael's going to win this because that's the way that tonight's going. And Rafael dos Anjos, which, as we know, means 2 años.
2.
Mm-hmm. And then Rafael Natel, who I was surprised gave up tennis to start doing UFC.
I think if I ever heard someone utter the phrase, I gave up tennis to do UFC, I would be surprised. I don't think there's ever a time someone would say that and be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
A tennis player beforehand. What did you think of Jacare?
Oh, God. Okay, first of all, props to Chris Camuzzi, who did step up to take the fight last minute. But the whole time you're watching it, because he's so good at jiu-jitsu, and you see him passing the guard at will. Like, there was no resistance. He just said, I'm past your guard now. That is it.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
he
are
crossed
fighting
the
here,
knee
and I'm
over.
punching
Like,
you
it
in
was
the head.
just... Here's what I like about when I see high-level jiu-jitsu. Though Jacare was doing some serious striking.
Yes.
It just gives you that validation that if you really do hone in on that one skill, it makes you phenomenally hard to fight against.
Of course. I would say in your instance, not so much. But yes, in general, for people,
Yeah,
they
obviously
continue
other
working
people.
at something. Yeah, other people, not us.
Not us. Not us.
No.
I also, I'm going to say this. I like Luke Rockhold a lot more after seeing both the way he got kicked in the face and the way he handled the fight. But talk me through your initial reaction when you see Vitor. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Jacare? I mean, it was beautiful, but...
No, I think we've covered the ground on that.
Yeah. We both want the picture, and we want him to sign our arm triangle autograph picture for the wall of Verbal Tap. What did you think when you saw Vitor Belfort spin around and just knock his head off with his foot?
Okay, so he had telegraphed it a little earlier in the fight where he tested one out, and I said, okay, that's kind of cool. And whenever I see something athletic like that, I always kind of go, man, that's really cool to see. I wonder if that will happen. And when he starts to do it the second time, and my brain is following it, I just said, oh, that's whoa, that's not going to work. Oh, shit. And he's dead. Wow. And then all I could say for 30 seconds after was, wow. 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 Like, I almost went to Twitter, and I almost tweeted out and then took it back. Just, wow. I was like, that's not even articulate. That's all you...
But that... If you look at like what other fighters were tweeting, that's basically what everyone tweeted. Everyone was just like, Benson Henderson just tweeted "wowzer." He added the "zer" on the end with 7 exclamation points.
Stealing from apparently Inspector Gadget that evening. What was your thought?
Well, I think Bubba McDaniel speaks for me when he just started tweeting out various acronyms for oh my god, basically is all it was. Oh, here's Bubba McDaniel's WTF 4 explanation mark. That was so crazy.
I didn't think it was possible to make that sound even sillier than the way it was written. But then I heard you say it like a Crank Yaker's puppet.
That's pretty much weird. Channeling my inner... Well, you do the Bubba voice better than I do. I was surprised, much like Luke was, I think. It was just... It came out of nowhere, and I wasn't expecting Vitor Belfort to spinning back kick his way into a title shot, but sure enough.
Well, we were joking off air where it was mostly that it looked like Rockhold didn't respect the kick enough, where he's just like, this is a good... Ow!
And just as he sees where it's coming, it's just too late. And all you see is his hair poof up.
Yeah.
He got kicked so hard in the goddamn face.
That great moment with the spinning back kick just makes the podcast come to a halt because we're giggling too much.
I'm sorry. Like, if you... Raf sent me a GIF, a GIF, just so everybody... seconds before the show started that was just the kick on loop, and it's hard to stop watching. Like, it
have you been watching it the whole time?
I have it playing in the background, but I'm trying not to focus on it because it'll get me.
All right, Kevin, I got to pull you back in.
Yeah, thank you. Nice. That's good partner podcasting.
Thank you.
And we need to stop all this silliness to bring on our guest. And as we bring on the greatest jiu-jitsu fighter from the United States ever.
Named Rafael.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest, well, if we read his entire resume, we'd run out of time just getting over that, so I'm going to hit the highlights. He's won the European Open Championships, the Pan American Championships, the Brazilian National Championships, and the World Championships at the black belt level, and that was all in the same year. He's also one of very few black belts to be a world champion, both gi and no gi. The most decorated American Jiu-Jitsu fighter, Rafael Lovato Jr. How are you doing tonight, Rafael?
Man, I'm doing good myself. It's been a little bit of a rough day out here in Oklahoma, so my heart is with everyone that's been affected by the tornadoes today. But, thankfully, myself, my academy, and as far as I can tell, all my students are safe and sound. My family, we're all good. But there's definitely quite a bit of tragedy that happened today out here. But sadly, that's a part of living in this area of the country. And especially this time of year, it's kind of like one of those things that we're always prepared for. But I'm doing good, man. My life couldn't be better, and I will be getting ready to take off to California here in a couple of days. So I'm super excited.
Fantastic. And yes, Raf and I actually were following the news in the Midwest, and the thoughts and prayers of Verbal Tap are with the people of the Midwest. I'm from Kansas, so yeah, it's just this time of year it gets very up there. But to take it back towards jiu-jitsu and MMA, can I just say what a pleasure it is to finally have a Rafael on this podcast who's actually good at jiu-jitsu.
He is 100% accurate on this, but that's okay. There's no way we can really compare records, especially when. I have to ask this question. Do you have to get like a storage locker for all of your awards and trophies and all that?
No, my parents still have a lot of my old trophies at their house, so I mainly just have the medals. Like, I got a bunch of trophies when I was a kid, at some of those smaller local tournaments. So I just keep the medals, the easy ones.
That's probably a smarter choice.
And we're stoked to do this interview tonight. We were trying to do it yesterday, but you and your father had a pretty big moment yesterday. Would you like to tell us what your martial arts school, what happened yesterday?
Yeah. This year's a big milestone. Yesterday wasn't actually the official day. I think it was February or March of 1993. Of when my father first opened our martial arts school here in Oklahoma City. And we wanted to wait till the summer to have a big outdoor like barbecue party and things like that. So we actually celebrated our 20-year anniversary yesterday. We had at least a couple hundred people, if not a little more, all get together at this park. We had a barbecue and played games and stuff. And just had a great day with all our students and friends and family, and celebrated our 20 years. It's been a crazy, amazing journey, and just hard to believe that time went by so fast, and we are where we are today. So, but we're very proud of that.
Yeah, it's congrats, because 20-year anniversary, and I think this is interesting, especially with you and your father running the martial arts school. What does it mean for you and your father? And for people that don't know, first father-son American combos to become black belts. So you guys were the first time in history that happened. What does it feel like 20 years later?
That's a special thing. That's not something that we set out to do. Like, nothing that we really even thought about as it was happening. He got his black belt first a year before I did, which is one common misconception a lot of people have is due to my name, they think that, my father is Brazilian and he was a black belt since I was a kid and everything. And I grew up learning jiu-jitsu. But my father, his heritage is Spanish from Spain. And, so he was raised here in the States as long as with his parents and grandparents. So, we're totally American. But he is a lifetime martial artist, and, he started learning jiu-jitsu whenever I was a teenager, and began teaching me as he was learning it. And then I started traveling and learning it, and we would kind of like take turns between him traveling and I'm traveling. We'd come home and teach each other what we learned and everything. And anyways, he ended up getting his black belt a year before I did, and then I got my black belt the next year. And then we kind of figured it out, like, oh hey, we're the first American father and son jiu-jitsu black belts, And, so
that's gotta be a cool moment to figure out.
Yeah, really cool. I think it was about a year later. The Serra brothers, their father received his black belt from Renzo Gracie. So, we weren't like way ahead of everyone else. There was a couple other father and son duos that ended up getting their black belts, I think, within a year or so after us. But we were the first, and that's something that can never be taken away. So we're very happy about that.
Yeah, it wasn't like any your neighbors got together and was like, "Wait, how close are they? We got to beat these guys real quick. Quick, son, get on it." There was something that I thought that was so cool about your background, which is that when you were 16 or 17, you would travel to California to pick up jiu-jitsu techniques that you would then bring back to your dad. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, that's kind of like what I was saying earlier. During this time, we've been in Oklahoma the whole time as we were learning jiu-jitsu. And, obviously there was no jiu-jitsu in Oklahoma, especially back then when jiu-jitsu was still so new to the country. The Brazilians, the black belts that were here in the U.S. were mainly either in Florida, California, or, Renzo was in New York. So no matter, how you look at it, they were all as far away as possible from us. Okay. So, we had to travel, to learn and, get any sort of access to quality training and high level instruction and tournaments as well. So, it became easier for my dad to kind of send me out to travel and train and compete and everything. Once I got to be about 16 and 17, he was getting more and more busy with the academy, and I was a little older, so he could kind of pretty much send me everywhere, and then I would come home and share with him what I learned. And by then, Carlos Machado was living in Texas. He moved to Dallas, Texas, and he became like the closest person that we had in our area to learn from and train with. So we were very, very fortunate to have him, which pretty much was because of Chuck Norris. So
yeah,
my life was greatly impacted by Chuck Norris indirectly.
Whose wasn't with Walker, Texas Ranger around that same time?
Yeah, I know. That's why, Chuck was there, filming the show and everything, and he wanted to learn jiu-jitsu, and he was training the Machado brothers, so he brought Carlos Machado to Dallas, and Carlos's first academy was in the studio where they were filming Walker, Texas Ranger. I remember training in there, and when the red light when the red light would come on, we would all have to stop training and be completely quiet because they were filming on the set, and then the light would go off, and then we could start training again. So, I remember that. So, but my father was going down there, but, I was wanting to compete a lot. So, on my spring break and my Christmas break and things like that, summer, when I wasn't in school, I would go to California, do, like a week of training, compete in the tournament, and then come back home. And so I would have the training experience, I would have the competition experience, to come home and then show my father everything that I learned and was watching and seeing, and then we would start to put it all together and drill it. And I've kept up that routine for just about 1999 was my first Pan Ams and World Championships. So I've literally not stopped doing that for right about 15 years.
That's pretty impressive. Most people get together with their dad, they watch the ball game. You get a much more active thing. That's got to be pretty cool. Now, I have a very serious question, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Serious question. Do you have any Chuck Norris facts? Since you firsthand were basically influenced and have a better life because of him. Do you have any Chuck Norris facts that you can affirm or deny for us?
Man, I wish I did. You know, I'm really sad that I never even saw him. I never even saw him one time.
Oh my God!
No one did. He pretty much only did private lessons.
Maybe that's the fact. No one sees Chuck
That's-
Norris.
Yeah. There you go. He's there, but he's not there.
Yeah,
Right.
So,
like a true ninja.
We've read that you started off doing JKD and boxing. What was it that convinced you to do jiu-jitsu over those disciplines? What was it that really drew you to it?
well, man, like I think I was just made for jiu-jitsu. I think it's just inside of me, you know. I was pretty competitive in amateur Golden Gloves boxing from around the ages of 9 to 12, and that was kind of like my focus, and you know that was what I was really like wanting to pursue. And my first goals and dreams were to become an Olympic boxer, and that, you know, like my father's side of the family has quite a few professional boxers. You know, my father grew up boxing. That was his first martial art was boxing before he was influenced by Bruce Lee and went more into the traditional martial arts and JKD. But you know, boxing was kind of in our blood, and you know, that's what I was into. But you know, after 3 years or so of doing boxing, you know, 5-6 days a week for 3 hours at a time, I started to get pretty burnt out. And you know, there's only so many punches that you can do, you know. And as a kid, like I was losing it a little bit. But we were like through JKD, there was some like Indonesian grappling, some you know, some like shudo, some shoot fighting that was incorporated into JKD. So we were aware before jiu-jitsu came around. We were aware that ground fighting was something, you know, that was an aspect of martial arts that existed and that you needed to know. But what we knew of then was very not technical, you know, very rough and, you know, just ugly stuff that, you know, that was all we could get our hands on then. And that even then at that time, I was already kind of like good at that stuff. And that was something that I already felt natural at. And so then when we started learning the real, you know, jiu-jitsu and learning the techniques, and I could see like, oh wow, this is something totally different. And, you know, I started to be able to get good at it right away. And I was already kind of a big kid. I was really tall and lanky. So, you know, I was able to start submitting adults when I was just like 13 years old with triangles and stuff like that. And so, you know, right then and there, I started clicking like, okay, this is more fun, and this is what I'm made to do, and this is what I'm going to, you know, put everything into.
That's awesome.
But boxing
ahead.
and Muay Thai, I still have a love for that stuff, and I don't train it as much as I used to, but I do still train it.
So almost before it was a thing, you were an actual mixed martial artist. You were doing the MMA from very early on.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much doing mixed martial arts since a very young age. Like, probably one of the first teenagers growing up doing mixed martial arts at that time, you know, because I was aware of the UFC since UFC 1, and I was a teenager already doing all that stuff.
Yeah, UFC 1 is such a fun thing to watch, especially now. If you go back and just watch it, well, is that where you saw jiu-jitsu?
Just before that, he already knew about Royce and Horian. He knew, you know, we knew that Royce was going to win, you know, so...
Your dad had seen these guys just like... So he discovered jiu-jitsu just moments before UFC 1.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that year or the year before, whenever because, you know, every year they had JKD instructors conferences where all the JKD instructors would come together and spend a week together, and they would have different instructors for different days according to the art. So they would have, an instructor for the Muay Thai day, for the Kali day, for the Penjak Silat day, just all these different days, the Wing Chun. And then they had the Gracies there for the ground fighting day. And it was in LA way back, and so that's when my father got exposed to the Gracies. And it was pretty much, just before the UFC came out.
Very cool. Changing gears just a little bit, do you remember your first grappling match?
No, I don't remember my first. I remember we like I said, we had been exposed to ground fighting, and when we started learning jiu-jitsu, we didn't even have gis or anything. So like some of the first tournaments I did were without the gi, and we always did no time limit. There was never like points. I grew up training the submission only, mindset, the UFC back in the day.
Yeah.
No time. It was no time limit. You know what I mean? And like the long matches and things like that were things I was accustomed to since I was a kid. We never trained with a timer. It was always just go to the submission. So the very first sort of grappling competition I did, I didn't even have a gi on. I remember my first big competition that I ever did was in 1997, and it was at the House Gracie invitational tournament. Or, I'm not sure what it was called exactly, but House Gracie was hosting it, and it was in Virginia. And that was the first time I traveled outside of Oklahoma or Texas to compete in a big tournament. The Machado team took a big team there, and I was 14 years old, and I got armbarred my first match by a Brazilian kid. I don't remember his name. I don't think he ever became an adult jiu-jitsu competitor or anything. But I got armbarred. I couldn't pass his guard, and I got caught in the last 30 seconds. And that was the first time my elbow ever popped. Was in that match, and so I was really sad. I remember crying, but that was my first match, my first big match, and at that same competition was the first time I got to see jiu-jitsu, because I hadn't traveled to any other big competition, so I got to see good high-level jiu-jitsu, and at that tournament I watched Margarita. He was like a 16 or 17-year-old blue belt, and he won the weight and absolute in the adult division at that competition.
What we see jiu-jitsu now is obviously not what jiu-jitsu competitions look like when you would have started.
Some of the local tournaments, I remember doing, Carlos Machado, he used to get some of the karate tournaments in Texas to hold a grappling division for kids and adults and separated by experience and stuff. But it was jiu-jitsu, but definitely the tournaments then were way different than what you see today, for sure.
Give us an idea of what your what Rafael Lovato's schedule is like these days.
Oh, it's nonstop, man. It's crazy. I'm so fortunate to have so many great things happening in my life. I get to travel a lot. It's pretty much 24/7. I'm training, teaching, traveling, competing, doing stuff for my business. Between running an academy full time, teaching, and I have my own competition team, my own guys, my association, and my own competitions I prepare for, seminars, releasing DVDs and products. I have my online site, my members, my students online that I teach. I'm married and got to make time for that. It's quite a schedule, but it couldn't be better. I love every second of it.
How does is there ever a moment when your brain just doesn't think jiu-jitsu? Even let's say if you're on vacation, are you still thinking it?
Yes.
Yes. Not even a hesitation. That's good.
I'm one of those guys that has a hard time sleeping, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and start writing things down, and you know, I'm kind of my wife, she always says I'm extremist, you know. I'm like,
yeah,
you know, but I think every really competitive person is going to be like that, you know.
I mean, I'm not even super competitive, but like in my brain, I know when I'm on a vacation. I was just on a road trip recently. The first thing that popped in my head was when it hit a day when I was supposed to be training, I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm not there. I'm in a car.
I always get edgy too. You can tell, like, if I haven't been training for a week, I get just a little bitchy, a little antsy. No, I totally hear that.
Yeah, that'll happen to me too. But I try to time my, like, usually when I travel, it's for a seminar or something like that. It kind of revolves around that. So I'm always like on the map. But every now and then, I'll do a trip, with my wife where maybe we're, pure vacation or a few days of pure vacation before I go do the seminar or whatever it is I'm doing. But
yeah.
I try to turn it off, and that's an important thing to do so I can come back fresh. But it's hard. It's always in my mind, and I'll think of positions. I'll think of something I want to try to work on or train. I'm always trying to develop my game, and I always have ideas, so I'll just make notes of it, and then when the next time I'm on the mat, I'll jump in.
I just like the idea of you at a restaurant being like, yeah, I'll have the filet, and you know what? That guard pass could be better. Damn it. Why? Genius. Does somebody have a piece of paper I could write on?
Yeah, I got iPhone. That's what the iPhone's for.
That's what
that is what the iPhone's for.
Now, Kevin and I, we've seen some of the videos from Brazil, but we want you to take us through the whole experience. So, like, describe from the moment you get there, how far back do you get there? How is that preparation going? The matches, just give us the whole deal. We want to hear all about this.
He's one of two Americans, by the way, to win the Brazilian Nationals. That's worth... Yeah, please talk us through it.
Actually, I'm the only American.
You're the only one. BJ Penn not also? Am I messing that up?
He won the World Championships.
I'm so sorry, Rafael.
No, that's
I have
okay.
the worst co-host.
I apologize. You are the only one to win the Brazilian National... the only American to win the Brazilian National Tournament.
Yes, and BJ won the World Championships.
Yes.
And I was the second to win the Worlds. But, wow, what can I say? I actually am just releasing a long kind of video interview with a lot of detail of my whole experience. Everyone can see that on my Facebook. I'm actually going to put it up tomorrow. It's like a 20, 30-minute long interview. But I'm going to give you guys the rundown. Basically, competing in Brazil to me is a really special thing. Like I said earlier, the first time I went was in 1999 when I was 16 years old. Actually, had just turned 16 the month before I went. And, I'll never forget the years way back then, into the early 2000s, the competing in Brazil, what it was like, training there. It was way different even than what it is today because everybody still lived there. All the top guys that were active still lived in Brazil at that time. And, the World Championships, the energy inside the Tijuca Tennis Club, the classic matches that I saw back then, just, and it was like, at that time, it was almost like this hidden land, you know what I mean? The jiu-jitsu guys were really like kind of mythical because you would hear about them, you would hear their name, but most of them you didn't get to see. If you did get to see some of them, the only other time you could see them was at the Pan Ams because that was the only major tournament that was held in the U.S. And even then, the Pan Ams were like back in Hawaii at that time. They were in Florida. Like a lot of people didn't get to go and see them. There was no there was no YouTube, there was no like videos online you could see. There was VHS tapes, you know what I mean, that you could try to find and get your hands on. So,
Yeah.
it was a whole different scene. And, there I am, a teenager growing up, competing there year after year. And it was just amazing. It was a time in my life that I'll never forget. Like, I was so hungry to grow up and be like one of those guys, and I set my lifelong goals like way back then, when I first started going to Brazil, especially in 2000. I won 2 medals in the juvenile division, and I watched BJ Penn win that year, and so, like, it was just, like I said, competing in Brazil and being in that environment it's just a special thing for me. And so this year I made specific plans. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wasn't going to do the Pan. I wasn't going to do the Europeans. I wasn't going to do the AUDIBLE Pro. A lot of which was factors of me being a little older and trying to be smart. Last couple years, I did like the whole season of Europeans and AUDIBLE Pro and the Pan and all these tournaments in between. And by the time I got to Worlds, I was a little drained. And that was kind of the part of me that just keeps doing what I always do, and kind of being stubborn. But I realized that my body just, it can't do that like it used to. And also my mind, I've been doing this for so long, I need to make sure I save myself for what I'm really motivated for. So coming into this year, I knew I was going to skip all those tournaments because I didn't really feel like doing it. Even though it was hard to stay on the sideline, I knew that it was better that I didn't do it, and I did what I really wanted to do, and that was go to Brazil and compete again in Brazil. And I set out to win that absolute. That was the reason why I wanted to go to Brazil. I always wanted to win the absolute in Brazil. And since the Worlds aren't held there in Brazil anymore, the Brasileiro was the next biggest thing that I could do. So, that was the plan. One of my brown belt students ended up going with me, and we got there like the week before. We went to Rio first, stayed at my good friend Rodrigo Pagani's house. He runs the Ribeiro Jiu-Jitsu Association in Brazil. He's an awesome guy, great teacher, great competitor. He has a camp in Niterói that he holds every year. He has a beautiful academy, beautiful place.
Was that the one that was featured on their version of Sports Center that you had up?
Yes, yeah.
That was an awesome place. Yeah.
Yeah. We were in his academy, so I highly recommend anyone that wants to experience Brazil. Next time Pagani has a camp, go there. Anyway, so I was, surrounded with a friend, good energy, good training. Got to go to the beach, get some good food, and just relax. And then we went to Sao Paulo. My student, he actually competed first on Saturday morning, and he killed his division, 4 matches, 3 submissions, never got scored on. He dominated. So he was in the master brown belt, medium heavy division. He became my first student to become Brasileiro champion. And so I had already won as a coach, and he gave me the good energy for me to get on the mat. And so then I had my absolute on the first day, Saturday. It was a big absolute, almost 50 guys, tons of big names, tons of tough guys, lots of world champions in there. And man, it was first day. It was a long day. It was like over 4 hours to fight down to the final 2.
50 guys is huge for an absolute. At least that sounds huge to me. That sounds.
Yeah, it was big. It was like a mini Worlds. Pretty much like, there was just a few guys missing that would be at the Worlds. But then there's a couple other guys down there that a lot of times can't get visas and get to the Worlds. So. It's a whole different thing, like there's a lot of guys down there that are still coming up and tough that you don't hear about here in the U.S. because of visa issues or money issues, sponsors and things like that. So, then the other aspect is you're fighting on their home turf. People have to understand it's hard for them to come to the U.S. Not just because of, the obvious, getting a ticket and all that other stuff, but the language, having a place to stay, recovering from the flight, all that sort of stuff. we Americans definitely have the advantage. I mean, obviously we're competing in our country, so to go and fly down there and compete on their home turf, you know, then you can kind of feel what they're going through, you know, and so it's a whole nother vibe. You know, you're on their turf, it's their tournament, you know, and all the other obvious things you have to go through to be successful down there. But basically, I had 4 matches on the first day. I submitted 2 of them. I didn't really run into any problems. I was pretty much ahead in all my matches. I had one really hard match, which was the quarterfinals in my 3rd match. That was the closest match I had. I only won by advantage. I was against a really tough Czech mat guy, and he has a strong base, really strong judo background, so he's really hard to sweep. And we ended up having a pretty tight match. There's kind of some stalemating going on. But you know, that's part of the battles you have to go through in a big division. Is there's always going to be a guy that can stylistically, you know, give you a really hard time, you know. And you know, I knew obviously I was going to run into at least one of those people that was going to be a close match. And I was, you know, happy I made it out the victor. You know, even though I'd love to win by submission, it's much more complicated with the time and the points and everything, the rules. So, you know, pretty much besides for that, I was able to submit everybody and be in control in all my matches. On the first day, the semifinal, I submitted Alessandro Ciccone with a Kimura. He's a really tough guy. He's a medalist in the world's absolute. You know, so he's one of the top 5, if you know, at least top 10, if not top 5 out there. And so to submit him, you know, I was just on fire that day. Basically, you know, I felt in the zone. I was so inspired and motivated to be competing back in Brazil. I last time I was there was in 2010, you know, 3 years ago, and before that was 2007, you know, right when the Worlds switched to the U.S. So since the Worlds that came to the U.S., I've only been back to Brazil a couple times, you know. So going there again and just being back and feeling like the old days, you know, and also being back in there as, you know, one of the guys that I used to look up to, you know, like I used to be a kid there looking at the top Brazilians, you know, winning in the black belt absolute, you know, that's the most prestigious division. I used to watch in awe of those guys, you know, and then to be there years later, you know, fighting and winning and doing my thing there, you know, as like kind of full circle, you know, in my life journey. I was just, man, I was in the zone. Like nothing was going to stop me. I could really feel it. Like it was just an amazing feeling, and people were watching me, you know, and I have Brazilian fans asking me to take pictures with me. You know, it's just like, wow, I couldn't, you know, it's really hard for me to describe, you know, like.
I mean, that was something I really did want to know was what was the reaction of the audience there, who were all obviously Brazilians? Like, what was that like?
Well, yeah, you know, so then the next day, you know, I had the final, and you know, after I won, you know, it was quiet. You know, I had a little applause. You know, obviously, you know, probably 95, 98% of the people were rooting for the other guy. You know, obviously, you know, but I think, you know, it wasn't the way I fought, you know, and the way that I showed my jiu-jitsu. I think that people can see that, and Brazilian or not, whatever, like, I think I earned their respect, and you know, they could see my desire and my will to win, and I played my game, and I went for the submission, you know, and that's you know, no better way to win. You know, you have to respect that. So, you know, and I did have some people like congratulating me, especially fellow competitors. A lot of the guys that I compete against and are in my division a lot, you know, I'm friends with a lot of these guys. You know, I like to talk to them. Even people I've faced before, you know, you kind of get to know each other a little bit, and you have a mutual respect for the other guys, you know. And a lot of the other competitors, especially guys in my weight class, Tusa and Baldo, some of the other guys, Sacconi. They were all very, congratulatory to me, and they knew that I deserved it, and it was my time, my day, and so it was just an incredible thing. I felt like I really played my game. I had one of my best performances ever, and to do it in Brazil and become the first non-Brazilian to win a major black belt absolute, that's what that's the sort of things that I set out to do since I was a kid,
And from a jiu-jitsu perspective, and this is what I like, the Brazilians are just going to respect good jiu-jitsu, and your jiu-jitsu game is so different. And it is unique, and especially at the point where you can make it through a 50-guy absolute. And absolute, by the way, you're talking about people that can be upwards of, like, way outside of your division, weight-wise, which is what's so interesting. I mean, that's a feat. So I'd imagine even to watch a first American do it, they were just probably in a little bit of awe.
I don't know what they were thinking. I know what I was thinking. I knew that, I had a smile on my face before I walked out to the final. Like I saw my moment right there. It was right in front of me, and all I had to do was go get it, and it's that moment will stay with me for the rest of my life. I did what I went there to do. So,
well, keeping in the theme of going out there and getting it, that Kimura.
Yeah.
One, let's have a moment for that. But two, is vicious. And so when I'm watching it, the first thing I see is I'm like, well, that doesn't look foreign to Mr. Lovato Jr. there. And if you look at your highlight reel, it's been a pretty consistent move that you've been able to pull off. So describe to us that moment when you see that Kimura, or when you like your brain, like you just go, yep, okay, here it is. I grabbed it. It's mine. Thanks.
Yeah, man. The Kimura is one of my, obviously bread and butter, like one of my best finishes. I just because it's funny you guys bring that up. I've actually just finished filming a whole submission series over all my best submissions. It's going to be a new DVD set coming out here real soon this summer, and obviously the Kimura is going to be its own DVD. I have a whole series on the Kimura, some of which some people have seen already, like my students online and my online coaching program have already seen all my Kimura details. So for those that are interested, it will be out there for everyone to learn. But basically, that was actually one of Carlos Machado's best techniques was the Kimura, and so he taught it to me. I got a lot of his details from a young age, and it's funny because I started doing when I was really young, and most people think when they think of Kimura, they think of kind of a big man move, a power move, something that you have to be stronger than the other person to get. And, that's really not true. I started hitting it a lot, 14, 15 years old. You can see it in my highlight reel. I have proof.
Mm-hmm.
I was 15 years old hitting that on grown men, adults. And so there is a lot of details into it. There's a lot of leverage, and a lot of which, I've just refined and tightened and made it my own over the years. And now as a black belt, that is one of my highest percentage submissions. I have I think 60 submissions as a black belt, and about 20% of them are Kimuras. So, it's one of my best finishing positions. It's pretty much instinctive. I can attack both sides, both arms. I have a couple, main ways I set it up, but there's tons of different ways that I will set it up. But usually I get one of two that most people give me. And, And, really, like, if you put your arm there, that's my spot, and I feel so good there that I feel confident I'm going to get it every time. And a lot of it too, people don't understand too. Many times it's easier to get it in competition because mentally their will breaks once you pass their guard. And so you pass someone's guard, if you attack right away while they're kind of like, and they kind of break a little bit, it's easier to catch. And nowadays, like, sometimes it's just as soon as I break the grip, people are already tapping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I will say this. I literally looked up a video because I wasn't happy with mine. I saw yours, and it helped me to refine mine. So, yes, I'm completely ready for you to give a new set of DVDs or system to it.
I'll say this. The scream after he finishes someone, after you finish someone, Rafael, is also probably going to be something we remember because it's kind of terrifying after you submit. So when did you start doing that? Do you know?
Like, it's funny because people, they see that, and a lot of people think that I'm a mean guy, and people get intimidated to talk to me or whatever sometimes. But, basically that is the result of a dream coming true. You know what I mean? Like, if you've ever had anything that you wanted so bad, so bad that you dreamed about. I mean, okay, the absolute. I've never won a major absolute division at any belt until then. Okay, so you're talking about 15 years of trying to get an absolute gold medal at a major IBJJF competition, a major being European, Pan, Brasileiro, or Worlds. I've made it on the podium at all of them at some point at one of my belts. As a black belt, I've been on the black belt absolute podium at the European, Pan, and Brasileiro already before that, but never gold. And so, if you want something for 15 years and you work day in, day out to get it, and you finally get it, you're going to scream too. Basically, when I have an emotional scream or something like that, it's because I worked really, really, really hard to make that happen, and it's uncontrollable. I can't describe it. It just comes out of me because I want it so bad, and and then it comes true and it happens, and it's just like, yes, you know what I mean? I did it, and this is my moment, and
nobody's going to dispute that. But did you see the photo of the gentleman who was you afterwards? It is slightly terrifying. Like, you're so intense with it that I was just like, this guy is ready to break something. But yes, it makes way more sense. But you do have to admit, pretty awesome.
When I'm
photo.
out there, when I'm out there, I am a different person. You have to be, and so, like, I'm gonna do whatever I have to do, to win, and so like, I'm very focused and I'm intense, and I put myself in a zone, and I just have one thing on my mind, and that's going forward and not stopping.
Well, that's a good way to do it. Speaking of competition, we see that you have a competition coming up at Metamorphosis. Was that Metamorphosis? I think
Raf's been doing this all week. Metamoris. Speaking of Kumura, by the way, the last time you appeared on Metamoris, you beat Kron Gracie via Kyron Gracie via that same nasty Kumura.
Yeah, man, Metamoris. Last one was amazing, incredible event, big show, lots of media. They treat the athletes really, really well. And
they even have drummers, which I really like.
Yeah, it's they have the VIP. They have just a nice stadium. You can get drinks there, good food, like the whole thing. So
Now, what are you expecting from, because you're fighting Andre Galvao, what are you expecting? What are you game planning?
Man, this is going to be amazing. Like, for me, I couldn't ask for a better match. This is exactly what I wanted. Galvao, I have so much respect for him. He's, he's one of the top 5 greats, for sure, ever. Extremely accomplished. What can I say? I mean, he's multiple-time world champion, ADCC champion. No one denies the fact that he's one of the best pound for pound to ever do it. So, I'm just so thankful to have such a well-known opponent, such a respected opponent. I can't wait. I just can't wait. I've wanted to face Galvao. We have faced each other before. Last time was in 2008, and he submitted me that day. That was at the World Championships in the absolute divisions quarterfinals, right before he fought Hajar. And at that time, I wasn't really at a place to mentally technically as well, but he was better than me then. I'll just say it like that, And our match was good. It was close for 5 or 6 minutes or so, and then I made a mistake. He was able to take my back and then submit me. So, and then anytime you lose to someone, especially by submission, you're gonna think about that. You're gonna want to face that person again. So I've pretty much been thinking about it for 5 years. I've been wanting to have an opportunity to face him. It's almost happened here and there a little bit. He kind of went off and did MMA for a while, and so I wasn't sure if I was ever going to get a chance. And so I think it's like destiny that it's supposed to happen at Metamoris, for 20 minutes, submission only. It's going to be an amazing battle. I think people are going to see, an extremely technical but aggressive match. He goes for the submission. I go for the submission. It's just going to be a beautiful war. That's how I'm describing it right now, lately in some of my interviews. It's a beautiful war, and I can't wait to experience it. And I'm very confident, and I know it's going to be a hard match, but I definitely see myself get my hands raised at the end of it.
I mean, we're definitely rooting for you, so that's not a problem on our end. We will say this, with Galvao in particular, he was discussing a little bit about the rules last year after Metamoris. The question I do have for you is, can you speak a little bit about that 20-minute format, and does that change your game plan, if at all?
No, for me, it doesn't really change anything. Like I said, to you guys earlier, I grew up doing these submission-only matches when I was a kid. I don't even remember really training with a timer until I was like a brown belt. You know what I mean? It just at home, with my students and my father, we never really had too much of that points mindset. It was just always about going for submission. Salo and Shanji, same mindset. I've had hour-long rolling sessions straight with Salo and Shanji, many times, numerous times. This happens a lot. Okay, they come into town, I go into town over there. It's like, okay, yeah, you want to roll? 30 minutes later, we're still going. We kind of look at each other. We got to keep going. You know what I mean? That's the point. You got to keep going to try to catch each other in the mistake. And to be able to learn from it. You know what I mean? And we would just keep going and keep going. And sometimes we finally just have to be like, okay, we got to stop. This is ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I've got something baking in the oven. I gotta go. Sorry, man.
Yeah. So this is normal. I think it's good for my game. Most of the time when I lose, it's 2 points or advantage or something like that. I lose to the game. You know what I mean? and not necessarily like to better jiu-jitsu. So, for me, I love it. My game doesn't really change either way. I'm not going to, for people that are wondering, I'm not going to do a Huron kind of style thing and
where you just defend. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to defend. I'm going to try to go forward. And if I'm going to make him tired, I'm going to make him tired from me being offensive, not from me just defending and making him tired from beating me up. You know what I mean? So,
in a way, I actually think it was Metamoris saying, all right, Andre, upset with the defense, we're going to give you one of the most pressure-filled offensive attackers we've got. And I think you're actually his punishment for speaking out. That was my theory.
No, I wouldn't say that. He wanted the match with me for sure. He had a choice. He had more of a choice than I did. He's a more accomplished fighter than me. And I think he had more of a choice on who he could face, myself or maybe one or two other guys. And I think he chose me, also because he thinks that our styles are going to make for a great match, and the fans are gonna love every minute of it. And for me, my game doesn't change. I don't think his game's going to change. We're going to go after each other, and it's going to.
So much of fighting is mental, and you have seemingly mastered the mental side of fighting. Where do you go when you're entering a match? Just talk us through that mental place that you put yourself as you're getting on the mat.
It's funny you say that, because that used to be my biggest weakness. Like never having a black belt, high-level guy here in my state, my city to learn from day in, day out, someone to mentor me. I had to go through a lot of like ups and downs, rough times trying to find myself and gain the confidence to know that I'm one of the best, even though I spent my whole life looking up to those people. Never really had one of those people to boost me up until I became close to Salo and Shanji Ibeto. And even then, once I started getting the big wins and winning the major competitions, I still had some battles because I didn't know how to handle being in that position now as one of the best guys. I put too much pressure on myself. I still was unsure of myself and didn't let my jiu-jitsu really open up, or I had some mental weaknesses. So that, I would say, in the last 3-4 years has been an area that I've really worked on and helped get myself to a place where I was more consistent and could really be at my best, mentally, which you have to be at your best mentally to be able to do anything, you know what I mean? Physically, technically, those go out the window if in your head you're not there. So now I feel like I'm at a much better place to be able to perform. I know how to keep myself in the zone, get myself in the zone, keep myself in the zone. Basically, it's all about confidence. It's all about confidence. If you think that you can't, then you can't. All right? You won't. If there's any doubt, any negative thing that you say in your mind at any certain point, it doesn't have to be outright negative, but where maybe you're praising the other person in your head more than what you should be praising yourself, or you're saying things like, "Oh man, that guy looks really, really strong," or "Oh, I have 5 more matches. Oh, I don't know, 5 matches. Gosh, I just want this to be over," or I made it to the semifinals. Now at least I know I get a medal. At least I know I get a bronze medal. All that sort of stuff is negative and is going to make you lose, or at least not be at your best. And so it just became, something that I had to train myself to keep build a wall and keep that out there. And it's a constant fight. I mean, that stuff gets in your head easily. It's it doesn't matter who you are. You're gonna have that sort of stuff that you have to deal with, on the inside, and so like one thing I try to tell my students, it's like there's 3 areas that you can always be trying to improve on, right? It's your physical, which going to the gym, conditioning, anything like that you're doing outside the mat is going to help you with your physical, all right? Technical, that's everything on the mat, okay? Training, drilling, analyzing, studying footage, anything you can do to help you technically, building games and strategies. There's tons of things you can do to help yourself technically. But pretty much if you're on the mat, you're helping yourself technically. But the area that most people neglect and don't even think about that much is mentally. What are you doing to make yourself mentally stronger? How are you making sure that anything that you did mentally, an error that you made mentally in the past, how are you going to make sure that doesn't happen again? What are you saying to yourself when you're training? How hard are you pushing yourself? Because you have to get into an area in your training to where you have to push yourself mentally, and overcome things mentally. If you don't experience it in your training, then you're not going to be mentally strong enough to deal with it when it happens in competition. Visualization, auto-suggestion. What sort of things are you saying to yourself? And I pretty much, I try not to just be in the zone on competition day. I try to live in the zone, and say things to myself all the time when I'm training, when I'm doing conditioning, before I sleep, when I'm driving to go to train, when I'm driving to go do conditioning. I try to keep myself in the zone, and just positive visualization over and over and over again. So by the time it's right there in front of me, I already know I'm going to get it. Okay, I already know this is exactly happening the way I saw it's going to happen, and this is something that I've manifested myself. It feels that way sometimes, but it doesn't always happen. You're going to still lose. Occasionally, it's going to, whatever it happens, but you have to understand that's just part of your journey. That's part of your process. If you quit within all the hard work or whatever you've already put in, is going to be for nothing. So, I just try to keep going and just, okay, that's done. What's next? All right. That happened for me to win over here, stay positive. Okay. I learned from this. Now let's go to the next one, if you don't have that sort of mindset, there's no way you're going to be successful. There's no way I would have won an absolute division after 15 years, finally getting my first, so those are the sort of things I do. It's one of my, favorite things to talk about and try to put into people, but it's definitely the hardest thing that you can improve on is mentally.
I was going to say that transitions nicely. We do have a wide range of people who listen to our show at different belt ranks, different disciplines. But in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in particular, we've had some people who have asked us from each of the ranks, white, blue, purple, brown, what was the best advice you could give to them? And also, what was the best advice you received at each of those different levels?
Oh, wow. Well, first thing I would say, number one, don't compare yourself to others, all right? Everyone's journey is different. Some people can fly through the ranks a little faster. Some people are really great blue belts, purple belts, but never get their black belt, Like, you are on your own journey, and whatever happens before black belt, it's supposed to make you the best black belt you can be. So if you don't see it that way and you allow frustrations or temporary failures take over your mind and make you think that you're not good at this, or it's not for you, or these other guys are getting it better or faster than you, or whatever, then you're not really finding yourself and finding your black belt self. And like I said, I had a hard journey. I was never a world champion at any of the lower belts until black belt, and And so, like, it doesn't really matter what happens at the lower belts. It doesn't really matter. If you lose 100 matches in a row, but then you get your black belt and you've learned from that, you know what I mean? And then you use that positively, and then you start winning as a black belt, whatever happened before doesn't even matter anymore, So each person's journey is specific to them. Don't try to be like anyone else. Don't try to compare yourself to anybody else. Just, find yourself, and don't be scared to challenge yourself, and push it to your limit, nothing at the lower belt matters. Don't compare yourself to others. And, you got to see it through, like a black belt is a white belt who never quit. That's one of my favorite quotes, hanging up in my academy. One of my favorite personal quotes that isn't exactly pertaining to jiu-jitsu or martial arts is victory is always possible for the person who refuses to stop fighting. That's a Napoleon Hill quote. He's my favorite author. He really only did one book, Think and Grow Rich, and that's my favorite book by far. But those are the sort of things that are really meaningful to me. Never quitting and always going forward, trying to achieve your goals and dreams. And that's pretty much the same thing as a black belt as a white belt who never quit. So if you get into jiu-jitsu, understand that you're on your journey and you have to see it through to really gain the benefits and see the beauty of what you're experiencing. And then once you get to black belt, it's really just the beginning, and then you have a whole new journey ahead of you. But as far as the best advice I've ever received, it's hard to say. Like I said before, I never really had a black belt like here day in, day out. So a lot of what I got was kind of in bits and pieces here and there. But Salo, he really gave me a lot of mentorship and guidance and helped me get that mental confidence and find that other person that now you see in competition. I didn't have so much when I was younger, that switch, because I was too nice, too apprehensive or second guessing of myself sometimes. And I remember him telling me, that like that superhuman kind of thing that you feel sometimes when you're in the zone, to find that and like that's the person you have to be in competition. So that's something that he was really like big on, like being a different person when you compete. You can't be the same you, because generally speaking, you're going to be a nice, caring, loving, respectful guy. You know what I mean? Like you're a good
You
guy.
clearly don't know me that well, but that's very nice of you to say.
Right. Well, everyone has their normal persona. When you're in competition, you gotta be the Superman. You can't be Clark Kent. You gotta flip the switch. And I wasn't always flipping my switch. And Salo taught me how to flip that switch every time. And that was some of the best advice I ever received as far as being a competitor.
No, that is great advice. And along those same lines, I did hear you in another interview talking about the difficulty of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu just as a sport. And that, you guys, when you're competing, you don't make tons of money, and that it's something that we have to continuously be working at to try and promote and better the sport. What is it that we can be doing to better promote the sport, just in your opinion?
It's hard to say. Like, I think the next thing that needs to happen is for jiu-jitsu to make it more onto like some mainstream TV, similar to like the X Games, extreme sports, stuff like that. The same route that the UFC went on. And, like now people are when they think of jiu-jitsu, they're automatically going to think of mixed martial arts and UFC. if they even know what jiu-jitsu is. Or they're going to hear jiu-jitsu and they're going to say, is that like karate? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
people aren't educated on exactly what jiu-jitsu is. They think it's like karate or they think it's like UFC. And they don't really know the art of jiu-jitsu itself and how beautiful it is and how amazing it is, how life-changing it is, and how everyone really should experience jiu-jitsu, how good it is for everybody. It's there for everybody. It's not karate for kids, and it's not UFC. It's not UFC for tough cage fighters. You know what I mean? It's for everybody. Yeah. And so they need to be educated on that. It needs to get more mainstream exposure. If it's on some sort of ESPN or Spike or something like that, where people could see jiu-jitsu, and then we're going to have to figure out how we're going to expose them to competition jiu-jitsu, sport jiu-jitsu. Obviously, sport jiu-jitsu isn't always exciting, so, there has to be some sort of venue to make jiu-jitsu become accepted as a fan sport, for everybody to watch and be excited for. Metamoris is working on this. Obviously they have a different set of rules. It's a super fight card. It's one night. It's a show. They're trying to make it, stylistic matchups, so it's exciting, and guys are going for submissions. So this is a step in the right direction. Hopefully Metamoris will continue to do these shows, and then it can eventually maybe cross over and get some TV exposure, and then from there, sponsors are going to start coming in. And this is what the athletes really need. Is big name sponsors, Nike, Under Armour, things like that, where we can get a real supplementary income to help us focus 100% on training and winning at competitions. Everyone has to do something. I think I'm one of the few guys that are running academies full time. Some of the more old school guys from my generation are also in the same boat with academies. A lot of the younger guys don't have their own academies yet, but they're kind of struggling, and they have to do seminars. They have to do seminar tours and maybe release products or they have to just win. If they don't win, they're not going to get their sponsorship checks and bonuses, and they're not going to get any opportunities. So it's hard. It's stressful. I was in that boat before, and now I'm fortunate to still be around and be a part of some of the transition as the sport continues to evolve and grow. But I don't think it's going to happen in my generation, where jiu-jitsu is going to be really popular and be, the athletes are making real money. Hopefully it's in the next generation that's possible. But basically it's going to have to get on TV for someone to really care about it. Millionaires aren't going to go sit in the pyramid and watch, those regular sport jiu-jitsu matches all day. I mean, they're not, it's not exciting. It's not going to bring in those people. They're not going to sit on those chairs, like that. I mean, guys, they need a VIP section. They need to be making it a show. Metamoris is doing this, you know what I mean? So, really, that's why I'm so excited to be a part of Metamoris. I'm really hoping that it's one of the catalysts to help jiu-jitsu hit the next level.
Well, that's what we're definitely hoping for. Now you'll be out in Southern California, not just for Metamoris. You're also going to be in Long Beach the week after, right?
The week before. The Worlds is the week before.
Oh, good. That's right. The week before. I'm so sorry. I'm backwards on my dates. So you're going to be in Long Beach first, then Metamorphosis, yes?
Metamoris, yes.
I still think you're a little off on your pronunciation, but that's okay. So let's assume everything goes great in June. What's next? Let's say you win those. Maybe you haven't made these terms yet, but what are the long-term goals that you still have that you're looking at?
Keep going, keep winning.
Hey, I like that. That's great.
Yeah. Obviously this is what I have my eyes set on. I have to stay focused. First is World Championships, 2013 World Champion, become the first non-Brazilian to win the Worlds more than once. You know, that's what I'm here to do, and I'm feeling really good. Like, you know, this is going to happen. So that Metamoris, victorious once again. After that, I'd say it's going to be ADCC. You know, that's going to be one of the main things that I haven't won yet. And it's an ADCC year, so I'm hoping to get my invitation to go back once again and compete at ADCC in October. And who knows, depending on how that goes, how my body is, go for Nogi Worlds again, and you know, keep going. I do want to do MMA at some point in time. You know, I don't know if it's going to be much of a career in MMA, just some fights to experience it. It's hard to say. I have so much on my plate right now, and as long as these big events like Metamoris and, you know, things like that are going on, it's hard for me to get out of jiu-jitsu, because that's what I'm really passionate about, and I'm excited for these big events happening for my sport. But you know, I do want to do some MMA at some point in time, and I definitely feel like I have another good few years left in me of competing at a high level. So you know, we'll see how it goes. Just keep doing what I do, and you know, I'll be competing forever. I can tell you that much, until I'm in, you know, senior 6 or whatever, like 60-year-old division. As long as there's guys in the bracket, I'll be out there, and I never want to stop.
I heard another interview that was asking you, it's like, so you're winding down. I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's in my blood, so I'm going to keep going, and definitely as I dwindle down in the hard, you know, high level stuff, I'll be putting more energy into my team, which I already do, but, you know, 100% focus will be on them and developing more champions.
Well, look, man, we honestly cannot thank you enough for taking this amount of time. You really gave us one of the best interviews we've ever had, and we're not afraid to say that. But I guess when you're the best in the world at something, you tend to be the best in the world at interviews too. So here's what I'm going to say to you, my friend. Do you have any shout-outs that you want to make to, you know, people? Is there stuff that we can help plug maybe for you?
Yeah, you know, it'd be really cool. What I'm doing right now is I'm giving everyone a taste of my absolute journey in Brazil, and I'm breaking down all my matches. Like I'm taking them through the video of my matches. I'm talking them through my mindset, what sort of positions I was using, my whole game, my whole strategy, everything. And basically all people need to do is go to LovatoJuniorBJJ.com. That's LOVATOJRBJJ.com, and they can see how to sign up to receive all that, you know, and experience my absolute journey with me. And you know, so go there, follow me on Facebook, LovatoJuniorFans.com, Twitter, the whole thing. I love hearing from my fans. Follow me on my journey here in the next couple weeks to win the Worlds or win a Metamoris again. I want to thank my sponsors, Lucky Gi. The Lovato signature Lucky Gi is out.
I just saw that. That looks amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it's a beautiful gi. It has brushing on the inside, so it's the softest jiu-jitsu gi on the market. It feels like a robe. It feels like a bathrobe. So very comfortable, totally competition legal, and it has my favorite quote on the inside trim: "Victory is always possible for the person who refuses to stop fighting." Something I always like to look at as I'm in the competitions. So it's a special gi. There's my sponsors: Lucky Gi, OnTheMat.com, Kai's Concepts, Novatech Laboratories, my conditioning coach, Luke Tyree of Tyree's Training. A lot of people are hearing about him. He's going to be putting more stuff out there for all the jiu-jitsu guys to get their conditioning training. So basically, yeah, that's about it. Just follow me on my journey here with me and my students, my team in Oklahoma City, And yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the interview. Thanks for having me on. And
Dude, not a problem. And we're happy to also put in a plug for your no pressure passing system, which, by the way, was awesome and described as drowning an opponent, which was pretty awesome. And
yeah, everyone can look that up at pressurepassing.com. Yeah, that's out there. That's my top game. That's what I use for competitions, what I believe in. Yeah, so.
It's pretty spectacular. I looked at a video and was able to realign a couple small adjustments to my own game. So thank you very much, man. And I am looking forward to seeing you. I am actually going to Metamoris in a few weeks. So I look forward to seeing you compete, my friend.
Awesome. Cool. I'll see you there.
All right. That sounds like a plan. And you know what? Thank you again so much for talking with us. We love hearing this, and we'd love to have you back afterwards to talk about your experience after.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Most definitely. All right. Thank you very much.
Since the recording of this podcast, the Red Cross has set up donations for the people of Moore, Oklahoma affected by the tornado. Please visit redcross.com/donations to help. That was Rafael Lovato Jr. Wow, he's you can get a real sense. This is the part of the show where Raf and I talk about the guest. You can get a sense of why he's so successful. You can just kind of hear it in his voice.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely a guy who, and when you hear them elaborate their mental visualization of success, when he said that it was something that he struggled with and something that he's now created, you hear it.
Yeah.
And you have to think, if you're competing like that, you have to be that way.
Especially on that level. I mean, and
yeah.
I'm glad you talked to him about the Kimura, just because when you watch his highlight video, you can see that Kimura come. Just he rips it out and does it so quickly.
And I mean, fantastic. I know that it is the polite thing to not say how awesome you are in a more, pronounced way.
Yeah.
But like, homeboy looks scary when he does pull off a Kimura afterwards. Like that scream that you are describing is one that you're like, wow, that's intense, man.
There is.
And I know he's just
fires
out.
Like
he's totally just like downplaying it. Like, no, it's cool. I mean, nah, it's just who I am. Then it's like, yeah, dude, I've pulled off a turkey in bowling, and I've never made that look in my
well,
face.
Let me ask you this: was pulling off a turkey one of your lifelong goals?
Well, at one point, yeah.
When I was obviously before, not after you accomplished it.
But like, I don't know. I didn't wait 15 years for it, so maybe,
see?
if you had seen me after all of those years, it would have Howard Dean yawed it.
Yeah, I heard the microphone was just turned up too well. It's like, yeah, that's a great cover story, Howard Dean. That makes a lot of sense for why you went screaming into the audience.
Oh, but political references from 2004 aside. Good interview. Just
great interview.
Our thanks to him for his time. He didn't have to give us that much time, but he was just so good.
He was. And when you've got a black belt talking to you like that, it's like, I just want you to keep going. You just keep talking. You're good. You just keep going.
The whole thing is it's like at some point you're just getting knowledge that you would never get elsewhere. Like you may interact with black belts, but if you've got one on the line that's giving you all of this knowledge, it's kind of hard to turn off the faucet and say like, nah, I don't want it. Thanks though. You literally just go, no, man, do you want to, we can just cut this and keep talking. But we respect his time, and man, thank him so much for giving us so much of it. That was awesome.
Yeah, and that was just a reminder. Check out his DVD set, and you can still get tickets to the Metamoris 2 Pro. You can watch it online, or get out to LA, join Raf in the audience, and give it a watch.
Yep.
UFC 160 coming up this Saturday. Velasquez, Mr. Kane versus Bigfoot Silva. Who do you got?
Did you just say Mr. Kane?
Yeah, well, Velasquez, Mr. Kane.
Oh my god, it's so awful. I'm gonna go with Kane on this.
Yeah, I watched Bigfoot win that last fight, but just from a pure intensity standpoint, it's always hard to vote against Kane. He just always has that look of just pure prison terror on his face. He just looks ready to fight.
It's true. Part of it isn't helped by the brown pride that is tattooed against him.
Yeah.
But, and that's why it's so hard for me. I'm like, as a Mexican, am I allowed to vote? No, I got to go for him. You're right.
Definitively. You have no choice. I like that you're identifying as a Mexican right now. Dos Santos versus Hunt.
It's happening.
It is happening. I'm looking forward.
For a while.
I want some Dos Santos.
Sure, I'd like to see him back in there. If Hunt gets a great knockout, why not? But
sure.
Dos Santos very nicely puts it in the mix, and we actually got a question thrown at us in that regard. The question comes from Stephen Richards that says, can you talk about the merits behind Bigfoot's title shot compared to Roy Nelson? Kane destroyed him last time they fought, while Nelson lost to a decision for JDS. Seems odd he got it even with the Overeem fight. What are your thoughts?
That's what it is, right? Isn't it just the Overeem fight? I mean, with the heavyweight division's been really, it's not been all that contentious. I mean, it seems like Kane sort of owned it. Dos Santos had a little run, but my problem is with, and it's a good question, I don't know if Bigfoot deserved it, to be honest. You don't see this division so much, it's hard to remember. I'm okay with Bigfoot just because of the way he knocked out Overeem, and it felt like everyone thought it was Overeem's time. So it was a big win, but Roy Nelson just hasn't been stunningly finishing people. So why give him the fight? It just, maybe the next one, but I don't know.
Did you just say he hasn't been finishing people?
He finished his last fight, but before that he wasn't.
I think it was the last 3 fights he's had.
He's finished his last 3 fights?
I'm checking this now as we speak.
Because I know he fought for the... I'm just going to keep talking. I know he fought for the Ultimate Fighter finale. That was, by the way... So, if he has finished his last opponents, that changes my perspective a little bit. But if you watched him in the Ultimate Fighter, he's just really a terrible coach and super boring. So maybe it's still just the UFC being like, that was such an awful fucking season of the Ultimate Fighter, and in part we're blaming you.
It was pretty bad.
So you're just not going to get a title shot. I'd be okay with that.
3 fights. KO, TKO, KO. Czech Congo, Matt Mitrione, and Dave Herman. So,
okay. But Herman was the one that picked up the fight
knockout
for Shane Carwin?
What's that?
Herman would have been the replacement for Shane Carwin?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fair then. Maybe Roy Nelson does deserve it. I don't really care, I guess. I should care more. Do you care? Are you passionate about this?
Not really, but I think that sometimes in a division, there comes a moment when time, zeitgeist, all of those things play a role where it's just kind of like, your turn.
That's true. Yeah, sometimes the fights are just staggered. And I know that seems like a petty reason not to give someone a fight, but, the fight game is such a weird turnaround, and it's hard to get your body back, so who knows. Though I did hear Nelson was... I did hear Nelson was in, like, a backup seat. He was ready to take over any seat in this last Brazilian fight and in the next one, which does make me like Roy Nelson a little bit again.
Hey man, he's ready to throw down. It doesn't even have to be for the UFC. I'm pretty sure it can just be at a Hooters for a set of wings.
And probably will. He's probably fighting someone right now just for the good time of it. One of your favorites, Donald Cerrone, is back. Cowboy returns.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see him fight. I'm interested to see how that goes.
He's gone through a lot of shit since he left.
He really has.
Climbing accident.
And I respect Gray Maynard. I think he's all right. Mike Pyle. I mean, it's got some good fights on here.
Yeah. And I'm ready to see Cain
I don't know.
Velasquez fight again. I'm always, I like watching him fight.
Too.
That'll do it for us over here at the Verbal Tap long interview studio. But damn, that was a good interview. I want to hear more after the Metamoris. Just after watching him fight a couple of times. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, when he gets done with Metamorphosis, I'm gonna hopefully be able to reach back out to him. What's that?
Are you just doing it to annoy me now? I'm going to take this as a Metamoris. It's a little fun game Raf plays just to see if he can raise my blood pressure before bedtime. And it works! Shout outs!
I will appreciate the fact that Rafael rolls with it, too. It's just like, yeah, dude, we know. Yep. It was so funny the first time. Okay.
Yeah, also there was that stunning interview moment where I had his accolades somewhat mixed up. For some reason, I had in my mind that there were two people that had won the Brazilian National, but he is the only one. No. So let me state that again clearer.
You have to read the press release.
That's all you have to read so much stuff about him, and I've been watching nothing but YouTube videos of Rafael Lovato fighting, and somehow, missed it.
Can we just say this? Phillips. What you should have said was, oh, I got it confused with your other trillion awards.
That is the other thing. It's like trying to write down or memorize your intro, Mr. It is long. Like, it's 7 pages worth of big-time titles.
Yeah.
Thanks. That makes me feel better. It's a little caveat.
You still screwed up, but let's do shout-outs.
BJJ and MMA Academy. We just had our promotion ceremony on Saturday. I got a stripe. But congrats to a lot of the gentlemen that came up into the blue belt ranks. No Concept Jiu-Jitsu out in Maryland. Also there for some fun at the seminar. BJJ Finder. Please check out the world's premier Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym locator. You can find it on iTunes. You can get the app, BJJ Finder. It's great. Andrew's constantly making updates to it over there, doing fantastic work. So please check it out, BJJ Finder. That does it for me.
Valley Martial Arts Center, VMAC. We are still hosting our first tournament in a good while over with Dream Promotions, who a spectacularly awesome organization.
Cool
we had the owner of it come roll with us, and he was awesome.
Dream
it's very nice. You know when you get the name of it is Dream, go with it. But the best part is he's one of those people who, when he rolls with me, he's like so amazing at what he's doing. And he's just like, you just need to work on this transition. You're going to be amazing. And I was like, you're just lying to me. That's the worst lie I've ever heard. And he just starts laughing. I was like, no, he's a good guy. MMA Roasted, who just celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday to them. Stephen Richards, thank you for your question. Also to our good friends Muggy, Lisa Falconer, always for being such great support. Josh Saman, who enjoyed one of our tweets while we were tweeting, where we were making fun of him not finishing an armbar in that Nas commercial.
That was funny. That was you. That was a funny tweet.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, we had a lot of friends following us on the fight Saturday, and we will be live tweeting in some capacity this weekend. And also a nice shout out to Dead Panda from Cage Potato. Funny stuff.
That'll do it for us over here at VerbalTapCast. Again, you want more of us? Go to VerbalTapCast.com. Check out the content. Get a load of the backlog of reading material you've got over there. It's a nonstop laugh riot. And we have just hit a point where both Raf and I don't have shows, so I'd imagine we'll start turning our creative boredom into even more stuff over at VerbalTapCast. I'm Kevin. Thanks for listening.
Good night and good fight.
Boom.